Hello, my name is Sterling Gildersleeve, and I'm your host today for Recovery Education for Families. We are joined today by the State Representative LaShawn Ford, who I'm sure everyone recognizes. And thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, yes, indeed. But before we get started, I just wanted to briefly, I have to be remiss if I did not mention that Recovery Education for Families is a show that was the brainchild and passion of Barbara Titoni. Barbara was passionate about educating families and individuals to let them know that recovery is possible, recovery from substance abuse and mental health disorders. Barbara passed away suddenly on October 13th, and she was sorely missed, but it is our mission and goal to continue with her vision of providing recovery education on substance abuse and mental health disorders during our stay here. So, again, welcome. And thank you, State Representative.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, indeed.
On the show, spotlighting recovery.
Indeed, spotlighting recovery. And to that end, I guess our show's topic today is the opioid epidemic. That is in the headlines, and everyone is discussing the opioid epidemic. And I'd just like to get your view on that, if I could.
Yeah, I think that it is one of the issues that we should be focused on, and we can't lose sight of the real opioid that's causing the death of many people, and that is heroin. Heroin is causing the death of most the overdoses that's taking place, heroin laced with fentanyl, and even fentanyl deaths. But I think that over 87% or more people that are addicted to opioids from doctor prescriptions lead to heroin usage. That's
interesting. Before I go any further, I want to remind everyone that you can please call in with any questions that you might have of State Representative Ford, and our number is on your screen at the bottom there, 312-738-1080, and we welcome any and all of your calls. Do you think, in some circles it's said that there might be even somewhat of an overreaction to this crisis? Would you agree, or your thoughts on that?
I don't think that there's a overreaction to, but it's not focused properly. I think that whatever and whenever we can raise the awareness about this opioid situation, it's good. But what we have is a president at the United States. We give him a lot of credit for talking about opioids, but we have to make sure that we focus on one of the major crises, and that's heroin. And the same thing in Illinois, we have the governor that's focused on opioids, but really they're not talking about heroin, and that's what's killing people. And then you have, I think recently, the overreaction that you may be referring to is the recent letter that the mayor and President Tony Prewinkle sent out to the dental associations, the pharmacists groups, and to the medical society groups, saying that they wanted to limit, or they recommend limiting opioids prescriptions to 7 days for acute pain.
Yes, that is... So again, so it seems like legislators are becoming doctors.
Right, and I kind of question whether or not legislators and the mayor and people should be talking about setting a number on how many days a person could be prescribed.
Yeah.
We know that there are studies that show that a person could become addicted within 6 days of opioid usage. Wow. And so maybe that's where they come out with their 7-day acute pain prescription. But, I think that we have to trust our doctors, and we have to make sure that we put strict penalties on doctors that overprescribe and fail to monitor and take care of their patients and give them the best care that they're supposed to have.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. The doctors, that is their job, is to describe.
They have a fiduciary responsibility,
Indeed. Well, once again, we have with us State Representative LaShawn Ford, and please feel free to call in with any questions on our hot topic of the evening of opioid epidemic. Our number is 312-738-1080.
Yeah, so there was, you're on the west side, I'm on the west side.
Mm-hmm.
There are overdoses across the state, but out of all of the overdoses, 1 in 4 happens on the west side of Chicago.
Man, indeed.
And it's pretty tough to swallow.
Mm-hmm.
And so people have to know about the naloxone,
Mm-hmm.
and people should have naloxone kits in their homes if they know that people are struggling
Right.
with the addiction. Because what the naloxone kit does, it allows you to revive a person that may be overdosing off of a heroin, maybe laced with fentanyl, but you could save someone's life with that, and you could buy it at Walgreens now.
Yeah, it's a wonderful tool to help. I know, unfortunately, some people have the opinion, those who are not, who do not have an addiction problem, feel like if you have naloxone, you're encouraging or supporting someone who has an addiction, that you're saying it's okay to participate in substance abuse because we have something to save you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's sort of like a parent with their kids on birth control. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean,
That's a perfect analogy.
You know what I mean?
Exactly, perfect analogy indeed. And so it's a choice, but it's a tool. It's
Yeah.
a tool, and it's the reality too that if a family member is using drugs, the family members are aware or should be aware. And if you're aware of that, then you need to take advantage of one of the tools that's readily available
to save lives. I mean, one of the problems that some advocates and practitioners see right now is the different drugs that people are using to live normal lives, like Vivitrol, like what's the other, Suboxone, and the methadone. So what I hear the conversations on both sides. So you have people that believe that the MAT, the medical assisted treatment, just treating people with the drug is enough to help them live a normal life, and they could go on that medical assisted treatment for as long as they decide that they want to be on it, because they're living a normal life again. But there are other people that believe that the MAT doesn't go far enough, that it doesn't allow the prescriber to provide behavioral health and mental health to get to the root of the problem, so that the individual that's taking the methadone or Vivitrol or Suboxone could one day be free of it.
I can understand both sides of it, but in the end, it would seem that it would be a person's choice.
That's right. Sterling. So you're saying exactly what the doctors and those that prescribe those drugs to keep you from taking heroin and possibly overdosing. So they're saying that it's the person's choice whether or not they want to stay on that type of medication. But on the other side, you have people that say, well, we have to make sure that we show them the other option. That yes, you can be on these treatments for a certain period of time, but you should have a goal of saying that I'm going to wean myself even off of that. So the argument is that people are not sending the right message as it relates to using Suboxone, Vivitrol, or methadone. And we should be talking about one day taking ourselves off of that. But the risk is great.
Indeed. Indeed.
Thank
you again. Just want to remind everyone, please, our phone lines are open, and feel free to give us a call at 312-738-1080. Our topic today is the opioid epidemic that is ravaging in our country, and certainly the city, and as Representative Ford says, especially the west side of Chicago. And I think it's great that it's being recognized that there is, this focus on getting help, because I think even if the focus is on opioids, it still helps individuals with other substances as well. There are people, I think, in spite of the epidemic that is said with heroin, opioids, alcohol continues to be the number one killer and the number one drug that people.
Yeah, that addiction. Yeah, I mean, I think that when the president named opioid as a health crisis in America, he used alcohol as a as his point of contact with a person with an addiction, and that was his brother. So you're right. Alcohol is one of the addictions that people have to be treated for.
Indeed, indeed. Representative Ford, you mentioned President Trump and him announcing that this is this crisis, but how will this affect him making that statement, calling it a health care emergency? How will that affect, or what effect will that have in the communities?
Well, it doesn't bring money to the issue, but it does sound the alarm. And the president has a big platform, and when he speaks, the world listens. So I mean, just for the president to say that there is a national emergency or a health crisis is good. Many people believe that he should have called it a national emergency. That way you could have gotten money from Congress to take care of it. But what I see, and this is, I think that we have a situation where, you have a caller?
Oh, yes, it looks like we do. We do have a caller. Hello, caller. You have a question or comment for us?
Yes, great show, gentlemen.
Thank
but
you.
the thing is this, like when you said, it depends upon the person to be strong enough to get off the stuff. And what happens is, if he's not, then he's got a program where he can go and get some other stuff to get high on. So he's defeating the purpose.
So that's what some people say, but I have to say that as when we have family members or friends that may have an addiction to a heroin, we would rather them take a Vivitrol, rather them take a Suboxone, rather them take a methadone, because that will say, the chance of them dying is not.
Wouldn't you rather have them go into a program to take care of them once and for all?
Yes.
We don't have that. We don't have that. Spend all the money there. Once you get caught, you go over into that program, and you got to go. Mandatory. But then again, lawmakers always say it's against the law. You're messing up his constitutional rights. Well, either mess up his constitutional rights or let the man die. If he's not giving the stuff up, I don't care how many programs you have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your call, caller. And again, that's sometimes, and that's what this show is all about. We want to get feedback, and the goal is to educate the audience about recovery and the recovery process, and let you know that recovery is possible.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, Sterling. That's what some people. He's right to a certain degree, but we have to also recognize that the pains are so deep with some people that they can't just quit from going to a program. And if you have a family member if you have someone in your family, if you don't support them with that next step of not using the street drug and taking the next step to use a Vivitrol or a Suboxone or methadone, then we're not supporting their recovery process.
Indeed.
Indeed,
a process, and I think that is the key. That is, some folks right away, others need to take a process. Taking the phases and stages. We have another caller. Hello, caller. You have a question or comment for us today?
Yes. I wanted to ask the representative his thoughts on the national move sort of away from criminalization and more towards compassion when it comes to people who have addiction issues.
Yeah. So, caller, I have to say that compassion is in my blood, restorative justice and social justice, and knowing that people in poor communities are subjected to the criminal justice system because this country allows for drugs to be poured into our country. We have to figure out a way to stop using taxpayer dollars to, one, lock people up for something that we have some type of control over, because we can control the flow of drugs in our country. And so it makes no sense for a person that's never hurt anyone physically, but, selling people drugs is a dangerous proposition. But I think that jails should be for violent offenders, and we should do everything we can to reduce and eliminate the flow of drugs in our communities, so that people are not able to sell drugs and go to jail for drug sales.
I agree wholeheartedly. It's everyone, and I think another alternative would be treatment. If some of the money that goes into incarceration would go into treatment, that would make a difference for sure.
That's right. I mean, the cost of putting someone in jail, yes, you're right.
Yeah,
so to turn those dollars into treatment centers.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Again, we have another caller. Caller, you have a question or comment?
Yes, a quick comment. A couple callers ago, a gentleman was stating that we don't need no treatments. They just taking money and whoa. Well, let me just say this. I have over 20 years of clean time. I went in for one time, and I wanted to save my life, and I did it. And trust me, I'm not one of those gentlemen, Ray, that you will see in the streets. We all not different things. I own property, and I owned it then. But again, I wanted to save my life. Me. I wanted to save me. I wanted my kids, my family to be proud of me. So this program of ours that we got, it works when you want to work it. But it don't do nothing if you don't work it. It's old saying, Ray, if you're not ready to admit that you have a problem, you ain't going to never resolve no problem. It starts with you.
Was it you, or did you feel that you had more support from family, friends, and loved ones that really helped you make it?
Sure. Listen, I'm not ashamed. I praise you and Congressman. Y'all do a wonderful job to keep Haymarket open down there. I mean, this was back in the Oprah days when things were getting kind of rough down there. But y'all guys kept that place open, and it's still open. They have family night. I ain't going to forget, I cried like a baby my very first year. My whole entire family from out of town came for my 1 year anniversary.
That's a beautiful
One
thing.
year.
That's fantastic.
But again, it was me. Sure, you hear about people, Ray, that keep coming back. Some people get it, some people don't. But if you got sense enough to keep on coming, sooner or later, you might come back. Then everybody don't make it, Ray. Everybody don't make it. Don't think that this is 100% cure. Only thing they do is give you the book. They give you things to understand. They give you a sponsor. They don't give you get you a sponsor. You get literature, and you got to do the thing. If they ever take treatment away, you're complaining, and now talking about crazy people running around, you will really see how serious it will be.
That's right.
That's
So
right.
again,
Well, thank you, caller. You make some excellent points, and one being that people don't get it the first. Some people don't get it the first time, and it's like it's the only disease, and that's what substance abuse is. It's a disease, but it's the only disease that people want to regulate how many times you can get help. When you have diabetes and people eat cake and do things to detrimental to their diabetes, no one punishes them for that. And substance abuse, I think that's something that we really have to ingrain in everyone's mind, is that substance abuse is a health issue. It's not a moral issue. A person with a substance abuse issue, that means that they are predisposed to an addiction, that it's just part of their makeup, and it's not anybody's fault, and it doesn't happen because of a situation that so often is said. It's a health issue, not because a person is a bad person or even... as you said, every drug addict or alcoholic is not on the streets begging for change. Some of them are in the community working every day and being productive citizens, but they have an addiction and are ashamed to say anything because of the stigma.
And when you have people that don't recognize that it's okay to go through the steps
Amen.
and take drugs or take medicine to substitute for the illegal drugs.
Absolutely.
That makes it difficult for recovery.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. Yes, caller, we have a new caller. You have a question or comment for us?
I have a couple of comments. First, I'd like to dispute what you claim that addiction is a disease. What I would say is that it's certainly a self-inflicted disease because everybody has problems in life. Some people more than others, and you have to find ways to cope with them within a society. And there are lots of people out there who probably would like to avoid their problems and to get high a lot, but somehow they struggle through because they couldn't face their family and friends if they got involved with that stuff. So I would dispute that, although I am not against people getting help for these conditions. And the other thing, you mentioned that we've got to find a way to stop the flow. Well, it's obviously, if we don't build a wall and start protecting our borders, drugs pour in. Or we know that fentanyl comes from China,
Right.
and we know that heroin and marijuana come from Colombia and Mexico. And we have to start taking it seriously. I think the whole idea of sanctuary cities is a gigantic joke. It's a politically correct posture taken by the Democratic Party because they know that a certain racial group, Hispanics, will vote Democratic if you keep being soft on these issues. So I think we have to get a cold, hard slap in the face about this stuff and start seeing it for what it is. Stop the flow across the borders, and again, provide help for people who are willing to seek it. But again, when you say addiction, I think it's a weakness, but I'm all for helping people, but I say secure the borders. God bless you both, because at least you're trying something.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much for your call. The caller mentioned the not being a disease and also the building the walls. I'll let you handle the building the walls.
Yeah, I think that building the walls, we have to stop the flow of drugs from coming into our country. Illegal drugs have to stop, period. But you build a wall, you still have the waters. Right. You still have the planes. Right. You still have, there's so many ways that this is a real act of terrorism against our country to allow drugs to be brought in. And now you have people making synthetic fentanyl.
Indeed.
So that's a problem that's been made right here in our country. And he also spoke about self-inflicted. Once again, people that are addicted to opioids from doctors that may have not prescribed, overprescribed the patient for pain. There's been such thing as pain clinics.
Yes.
And so there are some doctors that are negligent and overprescribed. So those patients that have been failed by their physicians, that's not self-inflicted because they may have had pain. And so now they become addicted. And so now they can no longer get the drug, and now they go to heroin.
That's a very good point, and it even leads to your point about the medicated assisted treatment. I think a lot of people mention with that individuals who are taking those medications appear to be high,
right,
or that they appear to be using. But the truth of the matter is, if someone appears to be under the influence when they're taking medicated assisted treatment, it just means that they're overdosed. Their dosage is too high. Because
right.
It's too high. The goal with medicated assisted treatment is for a person to be okay,
right,
to be normal, not to be under the influence.
Right.
So again, thank you. I do want to mention too, though, just real quickly about the American Medical Association is the one who made the statement that addiction is a disease. That's not my personal opinion. That is a fact from the American Medical Association, and you can feel free to look it up. It is. It's a disease, and sometimes we lose sight of that. I want to thank all of our callers who called in today, and I definitely want to thank you.
Thank you very
State
much.
Representative LaShawn Ford, who is a man in Washington, who is also a man in the community. I have to say that
Thank you so
you
much.
are part of the community, and you're there, and you're part of one of the callers even mentioned. So thank you for you coming out, and we'll see everyone next week. Thank you for coming.